every time a war kicks off, the headlines are all about soldiers, strategy, and politics. But what about the secret cost? You know, the one that's hiding in plain sight and affects every single one of us? It's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? Who really pays for war? Where does all that money even come from? And who's left holding the bag when it's all over? You might think, oh, it's governments, or maybe future generations, or some other big abstract idea. But the real answer? It's much, much closer to home. In fact, it's probably in your pocket right now. That's right, it's you. Right now, as you're watching this, you are helping to finance conflicts around the globe without even realizing it. And I promise, once you see how, you are never going to look at your bank account the same way again. Okay, so to really understand how you're footing the bill, we need to talk about some truly mind-boggling numbers. I mean, figures so huge, they almost don't feel real. So let's try to put them into perspective. Let's start with World War I. At the time, its cost was an absolutely unimaginable $300 billion. In today's money, that's well into the trillions. A sum that didn't just fund armies, it bankrupted entire empires and literally redrew the world map. But believe it or not, this was just the beginning. Because World War II made the first one look like a rounding error. We're talking over $1 trillion at the time. This wasn't just a war, it was the single largest economic destruction in the entire history of humanity, period. And it doesn't stop there. Fast forward to the Iraq War, that has cost over $2 trillion. And listen, that's a conservative estimate. The truly staggering part? The bills for things like veteran care and interest on the debt, they're still being paid today. And yeah, that meter is still running. The ongoing war in Ukraine, for instance, has already swallowed hundreds of billions of dollars from nations all around the world. And with every single day that passes, that price tag just gets bigger.
You know, when you really look at the world today, it kind of boils down to two huge competing numbers. One represents our need to feel safe, and the other, well, it's a massive mountain of IOUs. We're all walking a trillion-dollar tightrope, and frankly, the stakes have never been higher.
All right, first up, get ready for this. $2.7 trillion. That is the mind-boggling amount the world spent on its militaries in 2024. And this isn't just a new record, folks. It's the biggest leap in spending we've seen in a single year since the Cold War. It's a pretty clear signal that the world is feeling tense.
So what's on the other side of that tightrope? Well, it's this. $100 trillion. That is the staggering size of global public debt we're all sitting on. And it's not getting smaller. Nope, it's set to keep on climbing, putting this incredible strain on economies all around the globe. So you've got these two massive, frankly terrifying numbers. And they're not just sitting there on a spreadsheet. No, they represent two crises that are on a collision course. Governments everywhere are now trapped in this incredibly high-stakes balancing act between keeping their people safe and heading off a financial meltdown. Okay, so let's dig into that first number. What's the deal with this global arms race? Why is everyone suddenly spending like we're gearing up for something huge? I mean, what's driving nations to arm up at a pace we haven't seen in generations? And wow, you can see it right here. Just look at this chart. That curve shooting upwards, that's not some gentle slope. That's a direct reflection of a world that is dealing with more conflict, more tension, and a whole lot more instability. And this isn't just one or two countries. It's everywhere. You look at the Americas, the US is spending to maintain its global security commitments. Then you hop over to Asia, and China's modernizing its military like there's no tomorrow. In Europe, you've got countries like Poland right on the front line feeling a direct threat from Russia. And of course, the Middle East, with ongoing conflicts, means nations like Israel have to keep their defense spending sky high. Okay, so this is where it gets really tricky. This brings us back to that $100 trillion question, literally. If governments are already this deep in debt, how in the world are they supposed to pay for all of this? You know, for the people in charge, it's what you'd call a trilemma. Basically, they've got three choices, and honestly, they're all pretty bad. Every single option comes with a whole lot of pain, politically and economically. So what are the choices? Well, choice number one, you could raise taxes on everybody, citizens and businesses. Choice two, you could start cutting back on other important stuff. We're talking about things like healthcare, education, infrastructure. Or there's door number three, you just borrow more money and go even deeper into debt. So you have these three paths, but here's the thing. Raising taxes can really put the brakes on economic growth. And cutting social spending? That's just a recipe for getting voted out of office. It's incredibly unpopular. So, guess which option most governments are picking? Yep, they're taking what seems like the easy way out, for now, and just borrowing more to pay for it all.
And that constant borrowing, it's like we're just piling more and more weight onto our side of the tightrope. It leads to this much deeper, sneakier risk that goes way beyond just the numbers you see on a balance sheet.
What we're talking about here is the ultimate nightmare scenario, a sovereign debt default. In simple terms, that's when a whole country goes bankrupt. It can't pay its bills. And when that happens, it can kick off an economic crisis that lasts for years and years, affecting not just them, but everyone they do business with.
And here's a really crucial insight that researchers have found. It's not the actual moment of default that's the real killer. It's the duration. It's how long that crisis drags on, how long people have to suffer through the economic pain and instability that follows.
This creates a really dangerous psychological trap, doesn't it? The longer we stay in this high alert, high spending mode, the more, well, normal it starts to feel. We get used to walking on this tightrope, and we kind of forget just how high up we are and what a single misstep could mean. But wait a second, is it all bad news? I mean, couldn't all this spending on military hardware actually be good for the economy? You know, creating jobs, sparking innovation, that kind of thing? Well, this chart tells a huge part of that story. For the big arms exporters, this global tension is basically a business boom. I mean, just look at the US there, controlling a whopping 43% of the entire market. For countries like that, all this global instability can actually be a major boost to their economy. So you end up with this clear divide, right? A world of winners and losers. If you're a nation that builds and exports weapons, you can absolutely see a boost to your GDP and create jobs. But if you're a country that has to import all that gear, you get stuck with the enormous bill, and you see almost none of the economic benefit. That money is just gone, instead of being spent on things like roads or schools. Okay, so let's pull all these threads together now. We've got a world that feels threatened, so it's arming itself to the teeth. But it's paying for all that security with a mountain of debt that's creating a whole different kind of threat. So what is the real cost here?
It turns out there seems to be a kind of magic number, or maybe an unlucky one. The research points to this tipping point. Once a country's military spending goes above about 3% of its total economy, that's when the spending actually starts to hurt its own long-term economic health and makes its debt problem even worse.
And that really leaves us right back where we started, walking on that trillion-dollar tightrope. We're all stuck trying to balance this immediate, very real need for security against the slow, crushing weight of the debt we're using to pay for it. So the question for all of us is, in a world that feels this on edge, what is the true price of feeling safe?
But here's the thing, the cost of war isn't just about money. There's an invisible price tag, a human cost that has its own devastating economic impact. And it's a cost that we all pay for. This quote really says it all. Beyond the battlefield, what's really being destroyed are entire futures. The potential of doctors, artists, engineers, and parents just vanishes with every life lost. A whole generation of talent just gone. And the ripple effect from that is enormous. That loss of human potential isn't just a tragedy for one family, it's a loss for all of society. It means fewer ideas, it means slower progress, and it means less economic growth for everyone. It's a cost you'll never see on a balance sheet, but you definitely feel it. All right, now for the part you've been waiting for. We've seen the gigantic numbers and the human cost. But how does a war happening thousands of miles away actually take money right out of your pocket? Let's break it down. It's basically a simple three-step chain reaction. First, to pay for a war, governments raise taxes, they take on massive debt, or they just print more money. All that new cash floods the economy, which makes your money worth less. Second, that leads to inflation, right? The same stuff now costs more. And third, here's the direct impact on you. The cost of everything goes up. Your gas, your groceries, your rent, your life just got more expensive. And just like that, the conflict is no longer some distant headline you scroll past. No, it's right there in your bank account, it's at the gas pump, and it's in the supermarket aisle. The war has come home. So if the average person is paying the price for all this, it really begs the question, is anyone benefiting? Where is all this wealth actually going? Well, it's time to follow the money. So while war destroys wealth for many, it also transfers it to a select few. Defense contractors, their stocks soar as governments place huge orders for weapons. Energy companies, they profit big time from supply disruptions and price hikes, something we've all seen with oil and gas prices. And other major corporations, they benefit from massive government contracts for everything from construction to catering. War isn't just destructive, it's a massive transfer of wealth. And this is the crucial point to remember. We live in a completely interconnected world. A disruption in one part of the globe sends shockwaves everywhere, affecting supply chains, energy prices, and global markets. The idea that a war can just be over there and not affect us over here, that's a fantasy. Which really leaves us with just one final question. After seeing the trillions spent, the hidden costs to all of us, and the direct hit to your own wallet, does war still feel so far away? Or is it maybe closer than you ever imagined?
Welcome to the Sci-Economy channel. If you want to know what science and history tell us about your economic choices, investing wisely, market cycles, and why we keep repeating the same economic mistakes, subscribe to our channel to follow our upcoming videos.